Hello, and welcome to the Exponential Growth Podcast, powered by Analyst Investors. I'm your host, David Olivencia, co-founder of Analyst Investors, and a passionate advocate for leveraging innovation and technology to drive success. Let's get started. This is Exponential Growth. Welcome everyone to the Exponential Growth Podcast, where we look at all these exponential trends that are going on, really think about how do you best invest to win with all these trends, and how do you lead in this environment of exponential change. With me today, I'm honored to have an amazing leader with us, Claudio Robertson. He's the executive director of JP Morgan Private Bank, and he also leads the Hispanic Latino Wealth Strategy Lead for the bank as well, and amazing things going on there. So, Claudio, honored to have you on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, David. It's always great to catch up with you, and this is a great opportunity to reconnect in the new year. So I'm looking forward to see you continue doing great things and to see how we can support you along the way.
Excellent. So we're going to have a fun conversation today. Amazing background, your role at the bank, the clients you see. So would definitely like to jump right in. So first of all, tell us about Claudio, a little bit about your story. I know you live in beautiful Southern California as part of that, but would love to hear your story. So Claudio, tell us your story.
Yeah, of course. So I have a very unique background. I'm a kid of the border. So I was born in San Diego, California, but I grew up in Ensenada. And Ensenada is a city 2 hours south of the border from San Diego, is in Mexico. When I was born many decades ago, it was known for being a fishing town, and that's what my father did for a living. He had small fishing boats, and we had a small factory, and I thought that was going to be my life, in the fishing, and it seems pretty cool at the time. As I grew up, I moved to San Diego. I went to college to San Diego State University, go Aztecs. Grew up being a big basketball fan, so I played basketball my entire life. But as every story has it, when you move to the big city, your eyes just pop wide open, right? And I was just introduced to so many other incredible things. One of my professors in my finance class was a retired Wall Street trader. And I thought, that sounded cool, right? I mean, my world was down here, and now, getting a chance to get introduced to finance and just an incredible unknown world that wasn't gutting and cutting fish, because that was my summer job. Every time when my dad came home and he smelled like fish, he said, son, this smells like money, so don't complain about that. So these are really incredible memories. And I mentioned that I'm a border kid because I grew up living in two sides of the border. My parents were in Mexico. I have very fond memories when we would drive from Ensenada to San Diego on the weekends to buy milk, because we didn't like the milk that they made in Mexico. So we will bring milk all the way back to Ensenada. Also, we bring jugs and we fill them with water, because I remember my mom didn't trust the purifying plants down in Mexico many years ago. Things have changed a lot. We drink the milk in Mexico, and we drink it no problem. But anyway, so fast forward. When I graduated from college, there was high expectations that I would go back to my dad's small business. I was really involved. I knew how it worked in and out, and he really wanted me, with my new English skills, to come back and help out on the selling, the fish part of the business. We mostly caught the fish and sold it to Asian customers. That's what the business was.
Okay.
And but I decided I wanted to try something new. So I asked him if he can lend me $1,000, and I would fly to New York and try to find a job. Never, David, never in my life. Thank God my dad didn't know anything about finance, but nobody told me this couldn't be done, right? So I was lucky. I have a first cousin who still lives up in Westchester County. And I asked him if I could stay with him while I go and look for a job. He's like, I guess. So I came and crashed into his extra bedroom. He had three young kids. And I remember the first day that I went with this oversized coat down to Manhattan como second time in my life that I've been down there. It's like, okay, how do we look for a job? There's no internet. There was internet, but no iPhone, right? This is 2004.
Yeah.
And um, I didn't know where to start. So I started handing physical resumes in the lobbies of different banks and companies. Of course, I didn't go, and not a callback, not one callback. Eventually, things lead to another. Somebody introduced me to somebody else. Happy hour here, happy hour there, networking, and I started getting some interviews. But one of my first interviews was, he said, Claudio, you're out of your league. You come from a third tier school, and why are you trying to get a job in Wall Street? You should try to find a job in the back office somewhere else. Um, and I think this is like a very pivotal moment in my life, because I could have said, they're right. I'm just gonna go back home. I have a safe job back there, right, for the family. But it just really lit a fires. And like, I'm just exactly like you guys, right? I don't see myself being less than anybody here. So I kept trying. So I tried to find a job for 4 months and I couldn't. I had interviews and I was trying, but to tell you, my resume said that I was an expert in fishing business, right? So it was really hard to translate that into business, into finance, except for my courses. But life tends to be in a funny way. I got an opportunity to interview with Lehman Brothers and the back office. And this is through a friend who's Colombian. I'll never forget him. He said, I have a friend in Lehman Brothers who's in HR, and they're looking to hire back office. It's like, whatever job, I just want to get in the door, right? That's it. So by this time, I've probably had like 15, 20 interviews, and I changed my story. And I think this is a good point for entrepreneurs, right? Make sure your story makes sense, because I changed the story from I'm great at the fishing business to I understand how a business works, and how can that skill and that understanding translate into what I want to do next, or my new project or my new business. So I think I did a little bit better. Unfortunately, when I walked in, I thought I was going to be the only person being interviewed, and there's about 25 people in a long hallway, like the movies. And that was really depressing, right? Getting there, not knowing. So they call these like the super interview days. And so I went through the grind. I finally got a chance to make it to the finals. And one gentleman that I'll never forget gave me an opportunity, which is another pivotal moment. Somebody has to believe in you sometimes, more to believe in yourself, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he said, if you're from San Diego State, if I hire you and I mess up, it's my fault. If you're from Harvard and I mess up, it's like, who would have known? You're from Harvard,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But I'm going to give you a chance. Why? Because I grew up also working for my dad's sandwich shop in New Jersey. And I think that, you're a person who has values, you're learning fast, and you're really driven, you know what you want, we're going to give you a chance. So that was it.
Yeah.
They gave me an offer. And fast forward, I started working for Lehman Brothers. And one of the most exciting parts of my life, until Lehman Brothers goes bankrupt in a fashion where I didn't see coming. I was young. I was just working hard. I was just fully believing that the best place to work in the world, and we went under. And that was probably too much for this podcast to talk about, but it was an
That's another
incredible,
podcast.
yeah, that is an incredible experience of just learning. Another pivotal moment in my life there is that I spent all the money that I made. And I thought Lehman Brothers 401k and the stock options that I get when you get your bonus, those was going to be my life savings. So guess what? It all went to zero. Um, so this was really important part of my life. By this time, and I didn't want to skip it because it's not less important, but I've gotten married to my wife now of 18 years. And we didn't have anything in the bank considering all the amount of money that I was making. And we started getting really worried. So I took this opportunity to really study. And it was a realization to me, David, that how can somebody have so much money and not know what to do with that money?
Yeah.
That was the first time that I even thought about wealth planning or wealth or managing money for me and for others, right? So this got me, sort of shot me into a different path, right? So the institutional business that I was doing, was great and all, but now, I had to take care of myself, and it's like, who else can be in the same situation? Um, we started having a family, and we decided that New York wasn't the right place for us anymore to raise a family, considering we were from beautiful Southern California. And we decided to move back to Southern California, where I joined an asset management, small family office, multifamily office, and I completely changed my career into investing. So I started investing for high net worth individuals, and doing the due diligence on portfolios, and all the above, right? There's a little bit more to the story, and I'm gonna fly through it. After a couple of years, I had my kids. I had this entrepreneurial bug that I always had. I really wanted to be a business owner. I wanted to have something more exciting, and I thought about doing this business and that business. And one advice
Not
that I
not the
always
fish business though, but not the fish business,
no,
right?
not the fish
No.
business, because by then my brother had graduated, and he
Okay.
took over that, my youngest
There you go.
brother. So now he was a guy. He was a guy in the fish business.
There
Um,
you
but I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think it was part of the family, like just having something. And but I had a family now, so I had to be an entrepreneur, but an entrepreneur at the same time. So some of the, investing some of my money outside of my day to day. I got an opportunity to be part of a project of setting up a bank, and it sounded really fun at the time. The thesis, I really believe in the thesis. It was an online bank, but back in 2017 and 16, before online banks were a thing, right? So
Okay.
Revolut haven't left the UK before. Nu had not left Brazil, but
Yeah.
the project took me to the Bahamas. So with a group of investors, we moved to the Bahamas, moved with my young family, and it was an incredible experience. We had to go through the regulators, we had to raise money, hire the folks, just build the infrastructure, and very rewarding project. Unfortunately, stayed into a project, just the money raising. For those of you listening in fintech, you know that fintech usually is about, it's just scale, right? In order to compete, you need to scale, you need to fast, or you have to have a very differentiated, very specific product where you can add value in a very specific place. And we thought we were bringing that value, but then, money was always an issue. We had to continue raising money. And then COVID hit. And we decided that it wasn't sustainable to stay with the same path. And I decided to bring my family back to Southern California during COVID. And guess what? I was without a job, without a project, and was just wandering around, like, what am I going to do with my life? So I applied some of the skills that I learned with my interviewing. I called.
You went to another. You didn't go back with the papers in the lobbies. Your resume.
No, that not now that things changed though. So now I called every single person I knew on my phone. Every single person that I knew on my phone. How are you? What's going on? Let's catch up. I just came back from Bahamas, but it was COVID. People were not leaving their homes really. I know nobody was hiring. So I said, until I talked to a cousin of mine who was in real estate, I said, I can do that. I bought myself a course in real estate, and we started investing in multifamilies, and I started outreaching to some wealthy families to bring in some capital into um, San Diego and invest in multifamilies. So I learned a completely different trade there. It was great. And about a year and a half into it, I get a tab from JP Morgan saying that they were opening a new office in San Diego for the private bank. But at the same time, other things were happening in my life. My mother gets diagnosed with pancreatic cancer around that time, and she passes around that time, where I was in transition between thinking of joining JP Morgan or not. And in that transition, I don't forget how JP Morgan has been really supportive in the conversations and everything that was going on. And I was still in doubt. I didn't know if this is something I wanted to do. I wanted to continue being an entrepreneur. I was thinking about building another business. But as always, great advice from the wife. She said, hey, you can be an entrepreneur. You can think about, having doing something that you've always wanted to do. and maybe in a large institution. So something that have always been very passionate about is working with Latino founders and small business owners and entrepreneurs. So I was a board member of Endeavor. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
you worked with Endeavor in the past. So in Tijuana and Mexico, I was really involved there. With Score here locally, I would love to hear some of the, the ideas of folks who just wanted to do the business. I've been a mentor for LBAN for quite, maybe four years now, Latino Business Action Network. So that's something that I've always been passionate about. It's like, okay, maybe we can do it in JP Morgan or some version of it. Then I joined about 3.5 years ago. And now I'm focusing on managing wealth for ultra high net worth individuals. And my passion is to focus in working with Latino families and Latino founders. And just because I think there's so much work we've been doing and helping these families just really reach their potential. There's so much we can do. So happily married, 3 kids. Now I'm going through the couple of kids in high school. I'm sure you've already gone through this. And there's things about not, waking early and going to sleep late because nobody wants to go to bed in the house anymore, right? Everybody wants to stay up and do their thing. So I'm blessed. We have a healthy family and beautiful San Diego, and just trying to, my mission is to lift other people up. And that's what I'm trying to do from JP Morgan. Thank you again for having me.
No, look, it's a great story. A couple of things just for our when you say ultra high net worth, define that, because I don't think, at least it wasn't maybe, I didn't grow up with a lot of money, so that term wasn't even familiar to me maybe 10 years ago. But just define that to the audience. What is that?
Absolutely. So of course, finance in the wealth management space, this is where we look at your personal balance sheet. It's we identify different clients depending on their wealth size. So we have the affluent, the wealthy, and then the ultra high net worth. And these are families typically that have a balance sheet of 25 million or above. So it's a balance
25
sheet.
million or above. It's ultra high net worth.
Typically, at least this is how we define it in the firm. And this could be, real estate holdings, cash investments, and properties like real estate, homes, and it could be business interests as well. And to tell the truth, it's a really interesting role, because you get to meet these really, most of the case, very successful founders. Most of them are business owners, some incredible executives who've worked for public companies for a long time. And what's even more surprising, we're second, third, fourth, until fifth generation family members from companies. And what's fun for me is that I look, some of these situations have cross-border wealth involved, which makes it more exciting, more fun. Yeah.
Interesting. And I've had the opportunity to go to Ensenada maybe 3 or 4 times. And let me tell you, for those who are listening to this, so Ensenada, it's about 2-hour drive from San Diego, maybe 2 or 3 hour, 2-hour-ish drive. Of the 10 most beautiful drives I've done in the Americas, let's say,
that's really nice. That
is one of them. It is a beautiful drive, because on one side, if you look if you're going south, you look to the left and you have these beautiful mountains, like the most beautiful height, and they shoot straight up like for a mile, like they just go right. And then to your right, you have the beautiful Pacific Ocean, and you're just driving, and then you get to Ensenada. I can't remember the restaurant, but it's like kind of right when you get in, there's a little nice restaurant. And we stopped there, and then we got these lobster enchilada. It was like the best lobster enchilada I've ever. And then Ensenada, as you know, you mentioned it, it's a fish town. But yeah. So for those who are listening, if you get the chance, go to Ensenada. It's a great one. That's a great one.
It's a great place. Also, it's known by it in the last 10 years. I think it's gotten a good reputation on wine.
Yes, yeah, that's what I've. And I've never done the vineyards there, but I've heard of. I worked with a company called Softtech, and then they have a development center there, and that was great. And then the other thing, I'm a fisherman, so I've done the fishing, I've done the cleaning, I know very much that whole space.
We have to do it together next time.
Let's do it.
When you're close nearby, we'll swing down to Ensenada. I would love to do that.
Let's do it. All right. So on exponential growth, right? So cool, good background. there's a lot of things going on in the world, right? A lot of different technologies, changes. What do you see, and even what your clients see? What are the top two, three disruptive technologies that are out there that are just making an impact on what you see, what your clients see? Tell us about that.
So I'll speak from the perspective of clients and just interchange with what I'm living now. So I would say there's three areas where there's a lot of interest. Our clients are asking where to invest in these three areas. And it has to do, of course, with AI and everything related to AI and what is the best way and how to participate. Also, in the energy sector, I think that's like it's a boom that it's happening, but it's waiting to just continue improving. And what ways do we can participate in the energy sector, in the innovation, the energy sector, and healthcare. So I would say those three areas is where I continuously say, outside of having like a core investment in just like the general economy, we're trying to find ways to participate and to understand what is disrupting. And AI specifically, I've been asked questions and we've been exploring ways. And okay, so we're talking about overlaying AI to our day-to-day, right? This is fine. There's going to be a lot of companies that are already, putting out products out there. And I think just the Max 7 are going to beat everybody who's going out. There's just so much capital, and the Max 7s are the top 7 tech companies in the United States. They have the capital, the resources to give us these tools, but what is next, right? So we've been talking on things like, would it help? Is the second derivative is on robotics. So there's been a lot of conversations will AI finally help robotics, take over or just launch and grow the car automation? And AI finally going to allow us, to get to that place. So we're not even talking about just the efficiency tools, the ones we already are using, you and I, but what is the next derivative? So that's something we're focusing on, and we get excited because these are the large scaling opportunities that clients want to be part of, and we want to be part of, and our clients want to be part of. And in the energy space, we really think that regulation, sometimes we haven't been able to out innovate innovation, right? There's this push back and forth between what we can do versus what we're allowed to do. And our clients and the bank is excited about this new administration to see what there's any opportunities that open up when it comes to energy innovation. And you might hear about nuclear, right? The smaller nuclear, and how do we retrofit some of the current infrastructure and dams and things like that. So we're looking at companies that are well positioned to do that, to think about the future of energy and how we consume energy, and not only renewable energy. I know that's people are talking about that, but it's just energy as a holistic approach, like the ecosystem of the energy and what's going to come in. And we think that's also going to be really critical in the scope of the AI and the energy needs. There's some cool graphs up there that talk about that. And of course, healthcare, we haven't stopped investing in healthcare or thinking about how healthcare is affecting our lives, not only from administration of healthcare, right? This is what you and I go through with the doctor and how efficient it is, our visits, but it's just the innovation of it as well. So, and it's, again, these are the last industries that are hyper regulated. They're ready to unleash innovation. So companies in and around healthcare catch our clients' attentions, energy, and AI. I would say there's others.
Yeah, but
these themes have predominated, have really weighed more heavily than others.
And so I'm going to share like a little bit on what I'm seeing in those areas, right? AI is AI, and I agree with you, right? And I think robotics are big. I think I'm getting ready to put out a little report, but I think it's by the year 2045 that the humanoid robots there's more humanoid robots than there are humans on the earth as a data. I'm gonna put out a report on that, but that's an amazing thing. But and then it just continues to go from there, by the way, and you couple that with AI, interesting things happen. We'll be talking more about things like that. But the other thing, when you talk about energy, the graphs and stuff is like the amount that of AI and data centers that are just chomping up energy. You're seeing an explosion in demand for energy, and that doesn't appear to slow down as you get more. You're starting to crunch more. And then on the health side, one of the things that I'm seeing in the health side, so like now you can just precision medicine and call it like the longevity stuff, right? This guy on Netflix puts this "Don't Die" video out, and just but a lot of this tech and really precision medicine and health are just we're at a big curve there that hopefully on one of these upcoming shows we'll talk about that as well. But those are great areas. Those are great areas that have some amazing potential and a
Yeah,
lot of
I think I
exponential
just
growth.
just read that Max 7 has invested $250 billion just on data centers and energy related projects just for AI. And one of the it's not a concern, but considering these type of companies have like a 50% cash flow yield, right? How much growth they're expecting from these investments. You need to expect massive growth. So this tells you their outlook is very optimistic. We need to think where they're spending their money
Right.
to see where we should follow as entrepreneurs and the opportunities are as well. So I think that's a good thermometer to have and always pay attention. And because they're public companies, they disclose all this, right? So it's just
Yeah.
thinking like that strategically. Yeah.
Yeah. So now let's going back to like the ultra high net worth. You have an inside view to them that not many people have, right? And there's an interesting way, at least in my experience, in working with and some of them are members of Angeles investors that I lead and investors and all that stuff. But you have a broad view not only of your client portfolio, but the broader firm. Just your thoughts on how they think, how they plan, how they look at legacy and what their kids and generations and I think I find it very insightful because I'm my grandparents were very poor. My parents, we were middle class, but I've always found it insightful. And then you have a good view in that. Would love to have you share that. How what do they think? How do they plan? And then what legacy? If you can share your thoughts on what you see there.
100%. We have an amazing opportunity to see folks who've made their money from different ways, right? So we have the guy with the great idea who built a team, who had an exit, who's a multi-founder, and he has a way of thinking of things. Then we have very conservative, traditional real estate, second, third generation, just investing in real estate and being conservative and seeing your assets grow. And we've also seen more and more women founders doing great things and with different priorities. And I also, the US is unique because you can see different cultures making their money different ways and their relationship with money and with their spouses and how those are, right? But I'll give you some of my reaction to some of the things that cause me and make me really happy to see that and learn is money's not a taboo in these wealthy families. People talk about money. It's not something that nobody talks about in regards, how much you have. Usually there's a plan in place when you have children. Let's talk about a legacy type of plan. And from an early age is, parents talk to them about profits and loss and how does the business work. And they're most of the part, they're part of this business and they're making sure they have access to education and their resources. And something else is early on, companies, despite even before they have that massive wealth or an exit, they'll hire great advisors. So all of these families have incredible people who are really well prepared they can trust. And let's start with a great lawyer, a great accountant, a great banker, and they really leverage, right? They all really open up and they leverage these relationships to really find the best way to move forward as a family. Something that I also found in most families is they talk about their values. And this is
Mm-hmm.
something that it's a little foreign to me because I didn't grow up like that. but they will sit and think about what is important to this family. What are our values? What do we stand for? Are we going to help? Do we have a mission as a family? Do we want to invest in a nonprofit? Do we want to give the company to our employees? And these values are written out. And I'm impressed because when it's hard to make a decision as a family, once we have those values, it gives you the true north to make better decisions and more rapid decisions. The other thing I would say is, you will be surprised. My richest clients, no, my wealthiest clients are more involved than the ones that are not. And I'm saying they look at their
Say more
statements.
involved, more
Yeah,
involved.
they look at their bank statements. They
Oh,
interview directly the people they're working with. They take the time to spend time with me and my team, right? They really treat people the right way and are really conscious about cost. That's something that, so like, a million's nothing to you. Why are you
yeah.
nickel and diming me for a couple of cents, right? But this is just a culture of taking
Yeah.
care of what you've built. And it's, you talk to them, it's like, well, my dad was like that, and my dad was like that. And I want to make sure my kids are conscious about the money. These families have like dozens of folks who come with business ideas to them.
Yeah.
Um,
Can you imagine how much they're getting pitched and everything, right?
there's David, every day they get emails, cold emails, you know, warm leads through friends, through the accountants, through somebody, but they have a process. They have a value mission saying, no, we don't invest in anything outside the US, or we don't do this, and it helps them make better decisions. And they're in a place where they don't feel guilty. One of the things is guilting folks with money to give you money, and that's like a really common thing out there.
Yeah.
And no, you find a way to do it, because it's that's where you believe, and you do that, right? I think I jumped a little bit around, but overall I would say money's not a tool. You talk about this is really important to you, and you make sure your kids know. um, for those who decide as a family that the children are going to come into the business, they come in early, and they're giving a lot of rope to do their projects and to do their thing, right? I've seen that, a lot of responsibility. I think that's really valuable. When they invest, they usually consult the family, and it has to be something that either they understand or is aligned to what they're doing. So as a founder, let's say you want to go and raise money with a family, um, what I would advise is learn more about the family. Instead of going just to pitch, learn what their values are, learn their background. They're come maybe from, let's say, real estate background, so they're probably going to be a little more conservative, so they're probably going to care about certain things, guarantees and others, right? Maybe somebody made their money in Bitcoin, so maybe they're going to be like more innovative. They want to do different things. I think that is a superpower, to come into that conversation understanding how the decisions are made in a family and the values of the family. And this is, I see that people failing in this. They'll send a pitch deck. It's like, I'm raising $500,000. Are you in or out? Right? And it's a hard thing. A lot of the times they ask me to look at these things for them. And if it's one rule that I thought it was great is that we never invest to be a large shareholder unless we control the company or we're part of the control of the company. But we will never do that unless somebody from the family is able to be on the board or sitting there. If we don't have the capacity or the knowledge, we would just do like a small investment, like a ticket, like more like an angel type investment or something like that. I thought so. These are the real, the values that are written by the families, because you're like, I already have my own job. It's not worth it for my time to spend 5 hours a month or 10 hours a month overseeing another company that I invested a couple of $1 million in,
Right.
right? But without me, it doesn't work. So that's not what I signed up to. So things like this come up all the time in the conversations with families. So it's like, well, why don't you give me money? You have millions. It's like,
Yeah.
but think about them and their time. Like, why would I give you so much money that my involvement depends on the success of your company? That means I'm giving myself the time that I don't want to allocate to this, right? So anyway, these are
Yeah.
the psychological situations and some of the things that come up in conversations often, and that are real.
what would be like the biggest surprise or aha moment, you kind of take a step back and say, wow, having dealing with the ultra high net worth, if you were to summarize, like, what's the one big surprise that you maybe 3 years ago you never would have thought of, and now you say, wow, 3 years, like never would have thought of this.
I'm thinking about just my life in the last 3 years being involved here, and my aha moment is how couple things, but I think the first one is I thought most of them would be like bad people or mean people or somebody who just didn't care. These guys are so thoughtful for the most part. So thoughtful. They do so much with nobody looking or trying to get credit. I've seen them like coming through and helping their employees or families, their communities, and not everybody wants their name on the door. And I'm surprised how much money they spend trying to doing these type of things. I'm actually surprised, and I'm also surprised on how much they want to make sure they keep the family together. And that's one of their biggest fears, is that you make the money and then your children grow up to be complacent and there's no drive, right, to preserve what you've built.
Yeah.
And I won't name names, but I had a conversation with a gentleman who said, I have so much liquidity, I'm so wealthy, but I still walk out of my house every day so my kids can see me when they were young, so they can see I'm going to work. I could have just stayed in my family office, but what's the message that I would send them? So I would say how conscientious they are about their family and what they're trying to protect. That was really surprising. In movies, they pick most wealthy ultra high net worth like playboys, or it's like, we've seen all these, Netflix series, right? The Fox, Family, the Feuds. Yeah, those are the ones that get the attention because it sells. But the reality is, I think most of them are concerned. They hire consultants to come and think through let's say, a family constitution, right?
Yeah.
A governance idea for them. But they're most worried about. So I was surprised how worried they are that their children grow up to be good people, good citizens. They can um, protect their assets. That I never thought that. I thought they were just thinking about buying the next airplane and the jet, and because they can do that. But it's so thoughtful, the conversations, and we think about investing, and I also happy that they value my opinion. That's something really important for me, and that's something that I enjoy very much of the line of work.
Oh no, that's across all aspects, Claudio. Very very insightful. Your life journey, a lot of risks you took along the way that have paid off, and just how you've been able to pivot and just land in an amazing role with amazing visibility and leadership. And then your views on these different technologies and where they're going. And then I think this perspective you shared here, I think is very, very insightful. So I want to thank you for sharing your thoughts with our viewers, and then any closing thoughts, or just and then also let us know how we can connect with you and stay connected with all these great insights with you on social media.
Yes, luckily my name is an interesting combination of Claudio Robertson, so you can't miss it in LinkedIn. I don't usually use Instagram, but LinkedIn I check, and then if we become friends, I publish once in a while some really interesting articles that the firm produces, and there's a lot of interesting insights. But if your listeners are mostly entrepreneurs and folks who are thinking of launching their own business or have their own business and they're raising money, is don't negotiate against yourself, right? Build connections, but keep connections. One of the most important things that I've seen how successful folks have done it is, when you establish a relationship, try and find ways to maintain that relationship. That is a superpower, especially in our world. Um, when it comes to Latinos, and if start the conversation early with your family. Some folks have asked me, like, when is the right time to plan? It's like, do you have something to lose? Now is the time to plan. Oh, well, my company is a pre-revenue company. But one day, but very quickly it went out, and you're not going to have time to get things online, right? So um, and the final one is, if you already, took a few steps, and if you consider yourself in a position to help others, continue lifting other people up. This community will only be successful if you do that. And I think that's something you do very well, David. You're an incredible connector of folks, and either for business or relationships. And I'm sure that I have, like you have, connected people that we don't know how incredible things are going to do in the future, right?
Oh yeah.
But this is, I think we should take advantage of that. We have this national view on things, and know, both of us know great people. So I will encourage everybody to think that way.
Excellent, Claudio. Excellent. Again, thank you so much. We look forward to more great times and more great things from you ahead. Thanks again, and thank you all for listening to the Exponential Growth Podcast.